Testing, testing. And Mr. Ratkire and Councilmember Sherman, can you hear me?
Can you hear you loud and clear?
Wonderful. Madam Mayor, we are ready to go.
All right, thank you. All right, I have to use it every once in a while. All right, it is 7 p.m. on Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. And I now call to order the 2152nd regular meeting of the City of College Place City Council. Mary Elizabeth, will you please take roll call?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Jessup,
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland,
Present.
Councilmember Espinoza,
Present.
Councilmember Peterson,
Present.
Councilmember Dr. Williams,
Present.
Councilmember Sherman,
Present.
Councilmember Boyle.
Present.
We do have a quorum.
Wonderful, thank you. Will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, it's now time for public comment. Mary Elizabeth, did anyone submit a written comment in advance or request to speak via telephone or virtually?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and there is no one in council chambers, so we're going to just move on to the consent agenda, which consists of the agenda for tonight, which is January 14th, 2025, council minutes from December 10th, 2024, council workshop minutes from January 2nd, 2025. The rescheduling of the we're already throwing that all in there. Okay, we're going to talk about rescheduling. Let's just approve it. The November 11th, 2025 council meeting to November 12th, 2025 due to Veterans Day. And then canceling of the June 2nd, 2025 council workshop due to the clerk being away at training. Well, that's a good enough reason for me. Wow. Approval of the 2025 council and commission schedules. Confirmation of commission reappointments for Kelly Lean to the EdTech. So how do you call it? EdTech.
Yeah.
Terry Amont to Historic Preservation, Monica Boyle to LTAC, Steve Owens to LTAC, Groover Snell to the LTAC, Leif Bissell to the PAR Board, Jordan Green to the PAR Board, and John Kress to the UTAC. Excellent. Wonderful. Appreciate them volunteers for sure.
Yeah.
They do such important work and they have for quite a few years. Appointment confirmation of Michael Leisure to the Lodging Tax Advisory Commission. Appointment confirmation of Victor Valerio to the Planning Commission. And appointment confirmation of Brandon Stepper to the Planning Commission. Are there any items any council member would like removed from the consent agenda at this time?
I have a question. I don't want anything removed.
Okay, go ahead with your question.
You said June 2nd, but the notes say June 3rd, which is a Tuesday. And then was the council and commission, was that supposed to list like which boards were on this year? Because this just had like the calendar of our meetings.
Oh, I know the document the Councilmember Sherman's referring to. We can get that out the next meeting, that table. That's separate than the calendar of calendars that was distributed for the commissions and council.
Okay, so we'll get
Yeah,
that out at a
yeah.
different time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
and June 3rd, 2025 council workshop, because June 2nd is a Monday.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
it's
you said
cancellation
June
of,
2nd when you were reading through.
yeah, I did because it says June 2nd. We all failed it, except for Councilmember Sherman. Okay, so we've got those corrections in place. We got some directives for next council meeting. Do we have a motion on this consent agenda at this time?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Peterson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. There's just one presentation for tonight, and I will deliver the annual Martin Luther King proclamation, Martin Luther King Jr. proclamation. Okay, City of College Place proclamation, Office of the Mayor, City of College Place. Whereas this month marks the 96th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birth. And whereas Dr. King dedicated his life to advancing equality and social justice and challenged all Americans to participate in the never-ending work to build a more perfect union. And whereas Dr. King taught us that we are measured not by where we stand in the moments of comfort and convenience, but by the stands we take during times of challenge and controversy. And whereas Martin Luther King Jr. Day is observed each year on the third Monday in January and is the only federal holiday designated as a national day of service. And whereas each of us can and must contribute to making our communities better with increased opportunity for the whole community. Therefore, I, Norma L. Hernandez, Mayor of the City of College Place, do hereby proclaim January 20th, 2025 as Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the City of College Place, and I encourage all residents to reflect on Dr. King's teachings and seek to put them into action through service to our community. All right. There's no public hearings on our agenda, so we're going to just move on to number 5 action items, which there's 7 of them on the agenda tonight. So first, Mr. Rizzatello returns to us to present the final fiscal year 2025 to 2035 strategic plan.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, this was a culmination of months worth of work by council, staff and residents and a lot of stakeholders. So thank you. With that, Mr. Rakai led various workshops to go over what the and work on what the mission, the vision should be, make it a little more succinct to the what our historical one was, so that way is more of an elevator pitch, and then from there also revision what the core pillars would be, since over time it's good to revisit those. So with that, the pillars are as follows: a connected community, fun community, resilient community, safe community, and affordable community, and then there's goals and objectives under each of those. So with that, if this is adopted by City Council, then we'll be scheduling a meeting with Mr. Rakai and our department heads to start prioritizing implementation and such to make this a reality. So that's the Cliff's Notes of this project.
All right, thank you. We're going to go to council members for any questions or comments. Councilmember Jessup? Councilmember Cleveland?
No questions.
Councilmember Espinosa?
I'm just happy that we were able to come up with a unified strategic plan for the city. I think that we worked at it for several months, and what we came up with was very representative of what the community wanted. So I think kudos to everyone involved, and it was a good plan.
Indeed, thank you. Councilmember Peterson?
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman?
No questions. Thanks.
Councilmember Boyle?
No questions. Thanks for your work on this.
All right, if we have no additional discussion at this time, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll motion to adopt ordinance number 25-001, which adopts fiscal year 2025 to 2035 strategic plan and permits this document to replace hyperlinked plan in CPMC 2.10.10.
Second, Councilmember Cleveland.
Okay, Councilmember Cleveland. I do want to be additional discussions. Thank you all for your participation and the time you took. Some of you came back with homework and really gave us some things to think about and how to reword and how to actually correlate the words in a deeper sense with our community and not just see it as the word. So I really do appreciate the efforts you all put in. So I think, this is something that's going to go for a few years now. So congratulations and thank you for your work on this, truly. If there's no additional discussion, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Congratulations, council members. Great work on that. Next is a contract amendment for the post office crosswalk engineering with JUB Engineers, and Mr. McAndrews will present on that.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. This is the post office crosswalk project we've talked about a few times. I think most of you are probably aware of it. It's well under construction, almost complete. We're waiting on the signs for the rectangular rapid flashing beacons came in as the wrong color, so they're getting replaced with the correct signs, and I think that should wrap the project up. But well, they're yellow, but our standard calls it fluorescent yellow green. So
Purple.
no. Anyway,
Hot pink.
That is a accepted construction color.
Oh, interesting.
But not yellow.
Interesting.
Emergency and construction signage can be used in
Oh,
fluorescent pink. Anyway,
interesting. Okay, thank you.
back to the topic at hand. Long story short, if you recall early on in that project, it kind of got stopped for a period of time while we sorted out some funding stuff with WashDOT. So the project started and then it kind of got tabled and sat for a couple weeks while we sorted out. There was a piece of the funding where if the work we were doing before that wasn't going to be eligible for reimbursement. Something that came up from WashDOT after the project started. And so because of that, and then because of delays and the length of the project, there's been additional engineering needs. And so the cost for our engineering contract with JUB has gone up. And then this project initially got pushed through our on-call task instead of being ran like we would normally do for a project where we set a dollar amount and it gets tracked for that dollar amount. It was just being tracked through an on-call task like all the other tasks we tasked JUB with. So a piece of this has already been spent. And then tomorrow is the last day to pay 2024 invoices. So at this point, we're recommending increasing the contract with JUB by $30,000 or $30,400. Bringing the total for the engineering to $69,030. I guess I'll answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Jessup.
Thank you. I'm sure it's been a pain in the tail waiting on this one. So, so the on-call, just the process is essentially like as needed type situation, and as needed in this case added up to 30,000.
So typically the tasks that we would run through like our on-call contract would be when we send JUB's our on-call engineer. We went out to bid to add and selected them. And so they're essentially our in-house engineer, but it's contracted obviously. And so things like when we ask them to do traffic reports, or when we're looking at is a crosswalk warranted here, or what, various reports and studies, that stuff typically falls under the on-call contract. And then typically smaller tasks. This one being a relatively simple project, at least it appeared so upfront, just kind of got pushed through on the on-call contract instead of going through what we would do for a much larger scale project. And I think because of that, there wasn't the tracking that would normally happen with a project of this size. And so, to be perfectly frank, some of this money has already been spent and paid. And so,
Mr. Sotelo?
I will also add because with this pet and bike grant program, it was our first time at the rodeo for that, and WSDOT initially indicated to get that money spent out because it was under risk for the whole Climate Commitment Act thing, whether or not it was going to get repealed. So our engineer communicated with WSDOT, but then they were having a change in staff, and even though they were aware of everything we were doing, then all of a sudden got communication, oh, well, there is another form you need to fill out. And unless you have the stuff filled out, then we can't reimburse, even though they were made aware of all the other early level documentation. So just a big kerfuffle of things with this. So weird project. I do commend finance staff and public works for figuring this out while we trudge through with WSDOT. I will say going forward, because as you know, at past meetings, there's several projects that will be going on with them through various buckets of money. We're getting meetings scheduled a lot like we have with Department of Ecology now to coordinate projects directly with WSDOT. So hopefully we don't have any magical forms appear again after the fact.
So I just want to add to that real quick. So like Mike talked about, the project had kind of started and we were working with JUB and WashDOT. There was also change in staff at WashDOT. So the new local programs engineer came on. And I think when he became aware, he brought it to our attention. And to that point, we immediately said to the contractor, stop work, get to a safe place where we can secure the site, stop work so that we can get this figured out. I also had a meeting with WashDOT today and we talked a little bit about this project. And while there's no guarantee, it sounds probable that the work that was done before that will still be reimbursed. They asked us to go ahead and submit all expenses. And so I can't say for sure, but it's probable we'll still get that money reimbursed.
Yeah, thank you. And lesson learned. And thank you for getting ahead of it for future projects in the same way. Thanks both.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions?
Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
Okay, so this is engineering costs? As they're putting down spray paint to do the crosswalk. I mean, so what other expenses? I've watched with humor as they toss levels back and forth, crews out there. So what's next? Are the construction costs covered or?
Construction costs are covered, to my knowledge. Construction costs are covered. That's the piece with some of that reimbursement that we're waiting to find out if we
Yeah.
will get it
Okay,
reimbursed. What you've been watching with the construction going on has been some pains in conduits and things that were not where they were from as-built from the CARS project.
no,
And there's some complications with how things went in once you actually got out in the field. So there was some changes and tweaks that needed to happen. Frankly, I think the contractor did a fantastic job dealing with it. I shared the frustration about it not being complete. And yeah, it has been kind of painful to watch, but so this is for engineering. So design and then construction management. We also typically contract with our consultants to help us with construction management. We're a small
Yeah,
city.
okay.
And so initially part of this, the scope that was approved for the grant included things like a raised crosswalk. So going back and forth conversations with the fire department and with Public Works, it became apparent that that was not going to be viable in College Avenue and probably not the best idea.
Right, yeah,
So
yeah.
we also had to engage JUB to help us with conversations to go back to WashDOT to help amend that scope.
Mm.
And so there was additional work JUB had to do to help us work through that. And then additional construction management because the length of the project has gone on longer than anticipated, originally planned for. And so there's people that come out, and when the project takes longer, there's still things going on in the back end as far as managing payables and invoices and going through all the stuff in the backside. So that's where these costs come in, unfortunately.
No, thank you. It's just, yeah, it's 100% increase. It's, and I know it's not a huge dollar amount, but yeah, I think commonly looking at it, you knew something was sideways, over the last, so thanks, yeah.
And I am happy to report that, talking with Mike Holden, our capital projects manager, it sounds like within the next week or so, this should all be wrapped up. The proper signs should be there. And I think the RRFBs, rectangular rapid flashing beacons, should be functional. And that should essentially be the end of the project. So certainly.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
I don't have any questions either. Thank you.
and Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm going to thank you for the work because I know this is a project I pushed on you guys. It was something that I really pushed for as well. So, and it was probably my idea to put the bump on the road, to try to get that bump on the road. So thank you all for your patience and your work on that. And, no matter how it ends up, it's safer than what it was, for sure.
I 100% agree. I think it already is. Pedestrians, even without the flashing beacons, they can already get out past the parked cars or to the edge of the parked cars. So when I'm driving down the road, I can see when there's a pedestrian wanting to cross the street instead of them tucked behind a parked vehicle. So in my mind, it's already significantly safer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen that as well. And it also pushes cars to park differently now. So I was my nightmare of one day somebody's gonna get hit there is relieved. So thank you. And for all the work you put into this. Appreciate it. Any other discussions? Councilmember Peterson?
Yeah, real quickly. It's interesting. We focused on the post office with this. I drove by there, I don't know what it was. It was close to 7. And there's those classes taking place. There's more activity there right now than there is when the post office is open for crying out loud. And so, and you see people trying to move, park. And so, yeah, I think it's going to pay dividends, after hours, weekends, all kinds of things. So, yeah, thank you.
I agree with everything going on there. I had a hard time wanting to focus on it being the post office crosswalk early on too. There's always the chance the post office relocates, right? And then I early on questioned, are we going to want a mid-block crossing there if the post office isn't there? But I think in general, it's a beneficial crosswalk, so.
And you're right, because in the past, there weren't much evening crossing of the street, but now with the art studio there is quite a bit of evening walking traffic, pedestrian traffic. So you're correct. All right. Any other discussion? If not, do we have a motion?
Move to authorize Public Works Director or designee to sign authorization for contract amendment, increasing the authorized fee for the post office crosswalk project by $30,400, bringing the new total to $69,030.
Thank you, Councilmember Espinosa. Is there a second?
Councilmember Williams, second.
Councilmember Boyle beat you by a nose.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you again, Robert. And let's see, Mr. Rizzatello's, excuse me, let's see. Find solutions to irrigation district consolidation for our beautiful and special little city.
So with this one, so it's resolution to accept State Department of Health grant. You may remember this actually from a year ago, but that's how long it takes to get through the maze that is the State Department of Health. So we notified them about various issues because with Villages of Garrison Creek, I know you're aware of that. A lot of that's private roads, private infrastructure, and because of that, back in the day wasn't really built to city standard, and now it's aged enough where there's issues there. Likewise with some of our neighboring irrigation districts, and one that does cover city residents, Irrigation 14, they cover everything northwest of College and Whitman, and then the neighborhood between Davis Academy Way going all the way down to 4th. They can't really find operators, so they're in a pickle as well. So the Department of Health, they have a consolidation feasibility study where they'll essentially pay for a feasibility study to determine what is the delta on the needs, how much would you have to staff up, what are the ins and outs of all this. After going back and forth with them for over a year, they finally ran it through their contract process and got it to me last week. You'll notice on the grant agreement, it basically talks about the irrigation districts and that Villages of Garrison Creek. What they ended up doing is while the agreement lists those irrigation districts, the 20 grand over the 50 is for Villages of Garrison Creek. The little bit of a pickle of the situation is that historically with these agreements, they're supposed to go to irrigation districts. They actually have like a water ID to them. And with Villages of Garrison Creek, they're all behind that meter, but hypothetically that meter is part of the city of College place. So you get in the way you do. And luckily leadership at State Department of Health realized that it was serious enough they needed to get past the red tape. So just putting that out there because, I'm saying it's for Villages of Garrison Creek, which an element of it is, but the agreement says Irrigation 14 and then it has villages later on in the agreement, but not as like the title. So I just want to clarify that. We'll work work to do a RSQ, pick a consultant for this. And if it's anything like the consolidation study we did with Green Tank, will probably take a little over a year. I especially believe that because Green Tank was less than a square mile, and we're dealing like with some sizable areas here, so it'll probably take a little longer. But either way, they're covering all of it, so that's cool.
And the 20,000 they believe is enough to solve the issues that the villages was having?
So I end up getting quotes from 2 engineering contractors to prepare the memo having to do with that. And that was the number I end up getting from 2 separate ones that didn't talk with each other. So I think that's the magic number. So
Okay, and at this point, there's nothing that can get in the way with the HOA at the villages? They've already,
yeah, they were one that requested. They
right, so
sent
it's
us a
all
letter
official and
requesting
it's all done. I just want to make
Yeah.
sure there was no voting that still needed to go
Because
on.
otherwise they would not put that in
Right.
as an
And del-
addendum,
and
because
delay
this is
the
like
issue.
a freak circumstance.
Yeah, okay. Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments? Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Espinosa,
Question, Mike. The phase 4, the new development, I don't know if that's the right phase number, is that going to be impacted by this study, or are they on a separate infrastructure for water in the
You're
villages?
talking in the villages, the phase that's just getting underway.
Yes.
They are completely unrelated. They will be, excuse me, their homes will be metered separately or individually. And to my knowledge, they are actually outside of the HOA of the rest of the villages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Councilmember Peterson.
So having said that, is this something down the road we're gonna have an issue with, this new phase 4, as far as the quality of irrigation, water,
No,
sewage?
the new stuff that's going in is all being built to city code, city
I think we talked
standards.
about-
So
okay.
there's
Yeah.
city water mains in their private streets, and each home will be metered individually. So the city will own the mains. Basically everything from the meter back will be private. And so
Yeah.
that's part of the issue with with those 151 homes in the villages, is there's 1 meter. So everything behind that is private, meaning all that infrastructure and their private mains that are having leaks and issues are private. They're not built to code. So.
The moment that spilled out of my mouth, I remember our conversation, that was separate, I apologize. So back to the original point, Mike, so there was a question of them, of that water backflowing into our system, correct?
Well, as part of all this ground truth, and Robert's team worked with them to actually do a backflow, make sure that doesn't. That was at their cost.
Yeah, we worked with them this past year to get the appropriate backflow device. It's a large backflow device and it's expensive. But we made them aware of the issues and the concerns, and really by code, it should have been there already. So they complied and worked with us, and it was actually a very positive experience working with them to get that complete. And that has since been put in. So that the concerns of their issues backflowing into our system are significantly less. So
Good to hear. Thank you.
yes.
It's really unfortunate for the homeowners that,
Yeah.
it's not their fault that it was built that way.
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought about that, right? Councilmember Williams,
No questions. I'm really happy to see this moving forward.
Councilmember Sherman,
I agree with Melody. I don't have questions, but I'm glad that there's some resolution hopefully on its way.
yeah. Councilmember Boyle,
No questions. Thank you for sticking with it.
Yeah.
all right. Any additional discussions? I think, we're all pleased for our neighbors to get this addressed in a way that is best for everyone and is cost effective and safe for our water and our grounds. If there's no additional discussion, is there a motion?
I'll motion to accept resolution number 25-001, which permits city administrator to sign State Department of Health contract number GVL 30999-0 consolidation feasibility study.
Thank you, Councilmember Cleveland. Is there a second?
Second, Espinoza.
Thank you, Councilmember Espinosa. Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you. To Mr. Rizzatello will present on the architectural design contract with Design West Architects for the Lions Park Community Center replacement structure.
Thank you. So this item, we reviewed at the last city council workshop. So Cliff's notes of this is that, this contract we're authorizing, if y'all authorize this, this will go, for actually developing the legitimate architectural plans. The earlier ones were just like etch-a-sketch conceptual type stuff. So, this will be, the full architectural plans and some of the, bidding preparation as well for when we get to the critical phase of all bidding out the actual construction of it. Touching base on how this is getting paid for, we front end load this with 0.09 money from the county, and they authorize that they can be first in. Historically, they're usually the last in with 0.09, but given the fact we were getting a lot of the earmarks for construction, and I was trying to keep the earmarks that trigger a lot of the federal requirements out of the architectural phase because I don't want to drive up cost. I urged them to be the first ones in, and luckily they agreed with that. And then the remainder is covered by the city ELF grant that we received from the state. And then another element that we can tap as well, and I'm working on the MOU with them because they're going to sign it over to us, is the ELF grant the YMCA has now that they're selling the Truax property. So that money is just sitting there idling pretty much. And it was written to be used for either Truax or College Place. And this is College Place, so it'll be used for that. And once we get going on this, we'll just be working with all the partners and so forth on what the needs are and develop the architectural plans. We did late last week an email from, I need to review it, and I sent it out to folks, but we did get the initial brownfield assessment from the state last week, so I gotta read that. That thing's like 200 pages, so it'll take a bit. But that is where we're at on this to date.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Jessup. No questions, comment. Councilmember Cleveland.
As I'm recalling, back when we've discussed this previously, the issue of storage had come up. On the main floor, there's that childcare facility, and then there's the kitchen, and then the multi-purpose room. Was there any consideration of putting in a basement for additional storage?
I mean, there could be. The thing I've been cautioned by Mr. Ricardon, because, you know, we've been doing the Lions Park project right next to it, is apparently there is very high groundwater over there for most of the park, given the fact Garrison Creek is right over there. So we could investigate, but likely we wouldn't like what would be found with that, so we probably should not. I mean, it's fine to be building up, but as far as digging down, probably not the best thing.
We're not wanting an indoor pool.
Yeah. And pretty much, and I would just say that, you know, in the future, I mean, again, we have to fund it with the grants and so forth. But I mean, we do eventually have future plans for like trying to fix up this building, relocating public works yard and stuff like that. So hopefully that could get accommodated in one of those. And again, I'll just mention what was drawn in the early level stuff was this conceptual. So I wouldn't really tie it down that everything you saw is going to get platted. So that was literally just to get those initial grant dollars to get the architectural money to actually do the architectural plans.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Espinosa.
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions, thanks.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Thank you.
All right. So if there's no further discussion, is there a motion for this resolution?
Yes, I would move to accept resolution 25-002, which permits city administrator to sign agreement with Design West Architects for architectural design services for the replacement Lions Park Community Center building.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councilmember Peterson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Boyle, thank you. Any additional discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, the vote's unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Up next, Mr. Zatello's with the Blue Mountain Humane Society Animal Shelter Services Contract for 2025.
Okay, thank you. We went over this at the last workshop. Basically, they never updated their finances since before I got here, and inflation, cost of things, they found themselves in a pickle. So we worked collaboratively, police department, administration, and finance with Blue Mountain Humane Society staff to try to reach an amicable solution, and I believe we got there. While with this, we didn't go all the way what their original proposal was. We did try to meet them halfway to take into account the inflationary respects from 2020 onward. Because again, it should be revisiting that, every year and not expecting retroactively all the way to when that last was. And the original agreement goes all the way back like 2010. So it was a while. So either way, past is the past and this is the present. So you can see payment is monthly on it. It's for a 1 year period as well. And we work collaboratively on this to try to reach a solution. So we have place for police and code enforcement to take strays and so forth. So,
I also would like to add, in being in part of the initial discussions with the Humane Society, they really provide a valuable service to our area. And I know we're trying to get the cost of, per animal and a fair and equitable contract, but they are a service provider, right? And it's really hard for them to budget or even provide services based on, well, maybe we'll get this many dogs or maybe we'll get these many pets brought in. They need to be assured from their partners that there's going to be a guarantee of support to them. That way they can properly staff, properly equip, make sure that they're veterinarian and that they have the equipment or that they have the shelter clean. So I really appreciate their working with us. I really appreciate their existence. I couldn't imagine what it would be like not being able to have an animal shelter that cares for animals the way these people do. So I think it was difficult. The initial contract proposed, we felt that was not acceptable because of the way we were working in the past. But I really feel that we came up with a good solution and it's fair to both sides. And it still shows that we value their service and their existence in our community. I just had to state that. So I'm going to go through council members for any questions or comments for for either of us. Mr. Jessup.
No, thank you.
Mr. Cleveland.
No questions.
Mr. Espinosa.
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Peterson.
No questions, thank you.
Dr. Williams.
I do have one quick question, which I admit I probably should have read this more carefully, but just this afternoon I was seeing something about the issue of pets evacuation in emergencies like are going on in LA right now. So is the Blue Mountain Humane Society part of our emergency planning?
I I will say there's references to them in the continuity of operation plans that Chief Winters put together, so. And that does like cover emergencies and so forth.
Yeah, because the thing that happens in emergencies is a lot of times shelters won't, the emergency shelters won't accept animals, so the animals go to the Humane Society, but making sure that they're marked somehow as not being up for adoption. They're just there until their owners, can get out of the shelter, basically. So that they were talking about the difficulties of managing all that, and I thought it might be a good idea if we thought about it a little bit in advance.
That's a good question. So that's something good for us to find out what they would do in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be part of this contract particularly, but I just thought I would bring it up since we were talking about the Humane Society.
Yeah, just good to know for emergency management sake.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Sherman
No questions. Thank you.
and Ms. Boyle?
No questions. Thanks, Mike, for working on that.
All right, so if there is no discussion, is there a motion for, to authorize the city administrator?
I'll make a motion to authorize the city administrator to sign the 2025 contract with the Blue Mountain Humane Society for a 1-year term.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyle. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay.
Peterson.
Mm, I tried.
Thank you, Councilmember Peterson. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. So now Mr. Carlton's going to present an updated utility discount program screening contract with Blue Mountain Action Council, also known as BMAC.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was discussed at the last workshop, and we are recommending to sign the current contract with the new contract with BMAC. The existing contract expired on March 31st of 2024, and they've continued to charge us the same rates since that period. The rate is going up substantially to $500 a month, but for us to take on that burden and that responsibility of handling citizens' financial information, we feel is better handled by BMAC, who are already involved in that process. The other entities that are associated with this program with BMAC are getting similar contract changes. So we feel it's the right way to go and help support BMAC.
Mr. Isatello?
Then one thing I'll also say, you'll notice and recommended the action, put in language for a 1-year trial period based on the discussion of the last meeting. And I also communicated that to them because for full disclosure, I am on their board and I'm also on their finance committee. So that was communicated to them, all of that. And I will say, whether it has to be a standing ad hoc thing at their board, because I've already communicated this, I'll make sure we get the data points as far as how many applications completed and then inquiries for said applications pertaining to College Place addresses. So we actually have data, because that's the problem as of right now, the way things were because of how disjointed our code was and just how the COVID thing transpired in general. It's a bit of a crapshoot at the moment with the data. So this 1-year trial period should get us the data points as far as what makes the most sense, but at least it'll get us a point at which to measure it from. So
I'm gonna actually, same as last time. Again, this is a service. It's an invaluable service to the city and our residents. And it's a fixed fee for them as well. They have to pay their employees, they have to pay their time, they have to pay their record keeping, they have to pay their security. So I don't find it unreasonable that they've asked for more financial support. It's not like people just go to them and say, okay, here's all my documents. I'm all ready. They have to work sometimes and they have to go through paperwork and they have to send people back a few times. So they have to speak to someone because they don't have the proper documentation, or so it can be time consuming. And the quality of service that they provide our residents and the community here, when people are at their lowest situation, emotionally vulnerable, they do it with great respect, and they do it with compassion. And I think they do it in a way that represents the city as well. So again, I don't find it unreasonable to increase the support to BMAC. They were quick to step in when we needed them. So I think it's the right thing to do. And I had to say my 2 cents. So Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you. True to all of what you just said as well. And I just want to reaffirm and thanks for communicating that to yourself and the board. If I understand correctly, there's not as many subsidies.
Yeah.
In the federal government. And it
Exactly.
doesn't seem to me that we're an entity that can cover for the loss of subsidies from a federal standpoint. So just having that data point, in my personal opinion, just seems reasonable to say that we want to pay that which our citizens are using.
Yeah.
Right? We want to make it a balance to where the same conversation, it seems familiar as the shelter.
Yeah.
Out, right? We want to, we just want to have kind of we don't want to subsidize everybody. We'd like to pay for the services that they're providing for the city to be reasonable with our taxpayer money and such. So affirmation for what you're saying, of course, Mayor, and then just to reaffirm in the next year. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. Councilmember Cleveland.
No questions.
Councilmember Espinosa.
Yeah, for me, I just like to see a justification of the costs that we're paying and how that adds true value to the city. Because if you take care of cents, you're going to eventually take care of dollars for the budget of the city. So if we have leakage of little things here and there, they can add up in the bigger picture. So having that information, I think, will help to make an informed decision whether it justifies the cost in the future.
Yeah. I'm a data person and being in finance, and data always goes a long way in helping us understand what the true impact, the true costs, the true expectations is for anything. Absolutely. Councilmember Peterson.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions. Thanks.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Okay.
All right. Any further comments or discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for City Administrator Rizzatello?
Yeah, I'll motion to authorize the city administrator to sign the BMAC contract for a 1-year trial period for fiscal year 2025.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilmember Sherman. Mike, we might want to think about when the next year comes around for both BMAC and the Humane Society to not just have that data, but perhaps have a representative come speak with council. That way we had questions, we can get them
Agreed.
answered and make sure that the equal accountability is there.
Yeah.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you, council members. Finally, Mr. Carlton's going to close out the action items tonight with the proposed utility discount code.
Thank you, Mayor. We currently offer a utility discount to citizens who qualify. Those qualifications include being at 125% of the federal poverty guidelines. It also involved you have to be over 65 or disabled. With this changes with BMAC and looking at our program, we would like to make our program a little broader and be a little more consistent with our neighbors, Walla Walla. In that vein, we are recommending that we increase our percentage of federal poverty standards to 150%. That aligns us with Walla Walla and opens up the program to more citizens. Currently, we have 15 citizens on the program, and it's a minimal cost. I think it was $5,000 last year costs us than the discounts. So we would like to open up that program and be more consistent with Walla Walla. That would also include opening it up to anybody that meets the poverty guideline and not just disabled or over 65. So that's what's in front of you. Any questions?
I like it. I think now's a very important time for that. I think many of our neighbors need some help with and some relief. All right, Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions?
Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson.
Gotta ask. We talked about the 125 and 150.
We
Mike?
did resolve that. I was incorrect. The 150 generates more people into the program, says
Okay.
it has a higher top rate to disqualify.
Perfect, thank you.
So 150 is better.
Thank you.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. I'm glad we're taking a look at it.
Yes, absolutely.
Mayor,
Yes. City Attorney Colwell.
how are we gonna get this out to the people? That we're doing this, if we have a plan.
Out newsletter and social media like we always do with the projects and programs, so.
Yeah, I think that's good, especially word of mouth, because
Yeah.
I believe there's many of our neighbors that just need this little help first
Yeah.
time, right? And again, it goes back to compassion and dignity.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for the city to be part of that when it comes to our neighbors. So good question. Mary Elizabeth has some more social media orders. So some messaging directives. All right, if there's no further discussion, is there a motion on?
Excuse me, Councilmember
Excuse me,
Williams.
Councilmember Williams?
A follow-up to that question, I guess less a question than a recommendation. I hope that if somebody's getting behind in their bills, along with sending them, hey, you owe us more money, we also say, and here's a program in case you qualify.
Excellent.
Excellent point.
Love it. All right, so we'll get that done. I think that's, if it isn't already there, then okay, excellent. And make sure that they know about it. If they come to the counter, so make sure our staff is well trained on that messaging as well. All right, Councilmember, oh no, I already gone through all the council members. Any other discussion? All right, do we have a motion? Somebody's got to
All
be
motion
excited.
to approve ordinance 25-002, updating the utility discount program.
Thank you, Councilmember Cleveland. Is there a second?
Second, Peterson?
Thank you, Councilmember Peterson. Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, it's unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you, Brian. Thank you all for working on that and getting that data, those numbers for us. It's good to know, 15 and 5,000 is really nothing. So I'm glad we'll be able to assist more. So there's 3 administrative reports on the agenda tonight, in section 6. So first, Mr. Rizzatello is going to present the 4 economic development flyers that he created for distribution to desirable businesses this year.
Okay, thank you. So these flyers, they get presented to City Council with updated information, and you all approve them, and they go into the marketing flash drives for the International Council of Shopping Centers Conference, where we get retailers want to open up shop here. Jersey Mike's and Burger King and Chipotle and all that, those were results of such efforts previously over a year. So just an Economic Development Commission this year, they already recommended approval of this. They went over at the last meeting. So The first flyer is basically, we have a general marketing flyer. It just says we're open for business, and then it has the map of the trade area, the retailers kind of view things in 10, 30, and 45-minute drive time. So what's good is that we continue to hover near the magic 70,000 number, which differentiates us from like another market. Because if you're below that, then the arguments like, oh, we'll go to the other area, and we're always having a fight with the whole Tri-Cities thing. And that's especially going to be more important because I'm sure you probably saw the emails that were forwarded last week. But the region did get 109 million for phase 8. So that is like on a trajectory. It actually happened. So that's why we need to differentiate the market, because there's good sides and bad sides of that project. Good side is people go to like Tri-Cities, so shaving 7 minutes off. The dark side of that is when retailers and stuff look at it, you need to get that massive population around the drive time. Otherwise, you could hemorrhage that larger market. So, I mean, good news is that, as you can see, between 2024 and 2029, we're predicted to continue to get over that 70,000 threshold. So I think that's not going to be much of an issue. The median income, you'll see with the drive time for 2024, it ranges 10-minute being a little over 65,000 to 45 minutes 70,000, and then in 2029 predicting it to go 77,000 and then 81,000 in 45-minute drive time respectively. So that's that first flyer. Then we do ones for the business districts. So we have a downtown one, a Myra Road one, and a Meadowbrook one. For the College Avenue one, the thing I will call attention to that I know with Economic Development Commission was a little bit of a sobering moment was the whole median income versus your housing cost and the prediction and where the data said that's going, which is why we need more housing. So for instance, and you'll see that depending where you're running the drive time from, the data jumps quite a bit. So I'll go over it for the two extraneous area, College Avenue, the downtown, and then Myra Road, because it jumps by quite a bit. So for College Avenue, you'll see median household income when 10-minute drive time, a little over 62,000. By 2029, they're predicting it'll go up 74,000. However, the median home value right now is a little bit over 400,000. By 2029, it going all the way up 543,000. And the part that was alarming was one of the new members of EdTech is actually an underwriter at the community bank, and he was like, that's pretty alarming because if I got that income in for that house, I couldn't approve the loan for it. So that's that's a huge issue, which is why we need to accelerate and do everything we can to get additional housing here. So that's the bad side of the data. The good side of the data for this one is that the consumer demand predicted in 2029 continues to grow pretty extremely. So apparel, the demand within 45 minutes is over 70 million. Groceries, the demand is 223 million, and restaurants is 117. So there's definitely there's a major untapped market here. Then we have the Meadowbrook one, and the data differentiates a little bit from downtown, but since it's further down College Avenue, like not enough where I'm gonna like give a thesis about it. Myra Road, this is far enough where it actually does jump a bit. So again, the whole housing cost thing, this is a good demonstration. So when the 10-minute drive time, 2024, 404,000, and 2029 jumping all the way up to 565,000 from Myra Road. And then even going all the way out to 45 minutes, which in essence is like Wallula, Burbank on the outside, going all the way out to Dayton and then Pendleton, you'll see it that median value still doesn't drop all that much, 510,000. So definitely an issue there. However, the demand for goods and so forth continues to be extremely high. So apparel 69 million, the groceries 219 million, restaurants 116 million. So good market data to get additional businesses here, and it's actually paid off in the past years. It's just this does demonstrate, I will say, our housing related issues, and that we need to keep monitoring that and working to change that. So that's the comments on these flyers.
Okay, just gonna quickly see if any council members have any comments or questions. Councilmember Jessup.
If you don't mind, I just, for curiosity's sake, two clarifications with the housing one. With that data, it accounts for all things going well, the housing that we're expected or wanting to put in, that medium household.
So no, because with the ESRI data, what it does is that essentially it goes back over a 10-year time period from the U.S. Census, and whatever the growth rates have been, it basically extrapolates that against economic data to try to build out a trajectory for pricing.
Okay, so that's dire looking, but but we're making plans, we're making progress, we're doing the things now to help.
Exactly. It's just what I mention all that because, I think like with some of the infrastructure we put in, at times there may be a question of like, well, why are you helping residential development and stuff? And that data is why, because without that, you see what the prices jump to, and that's alarming.
The second clarity, forgive me, I didn't quite understand it. You're saying that the highway is of benefit to us in terms of drawing commercial, or it's a little bit of a challenge?
It's both. No, it really is both. So I'll give you for instance. So with light industrial flex development, so the potential like aeronautical stuff and manufacturing may go adjacent to Martin Airfield. That's going to benefit that more than you could ever believe. Because right now, when freight looks at the fact you have to go 10 miles on a 1 lane each way road, they're just like, no, we're not doing that. So now that it'll be 2 lane each way, we're actually going to be able to compete for once with that, which is great. However, the dark side of that is with the commercial and the retail, because we're right at that 70,000 threshold, and that tends to be the magic marker where you're considered your own market. And I mean, we are growing past that, which is the good news, but that just shows that we really need to get our cards in order as far as getting as much retail here as possible, because when that thing opens up, they could potentially view it as like, oh, well, you're part of the same market, because typically when you're going to establish another location, it's usually for like under a 45-minute drive time. And with the population and what that's predicted to do, that gets to drive under 45 minutes once that thing gets opened up. So there's benefits from light industrial flex office side, but the retail restaurant side, we need to be very cautious about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any others who have questions or comments? Okay, Councilmember Peterson?
Real quickly, I don't think we know the answers to this right now, but the governor, though, talking about a 6.7% reduction across the board. I think our consultants will probably help us with this in the future, but I'm not sure how that's going to impact the city.
I put it this way, looking at what they're predicting, I know it'll affect getting grant agreements out and loan agreements out from the state, because already it's a pain. I mean, with that water consolidation agreement, literally it was playing tug of war for a year with them to get that. So that part isn't going to look good. The silver lining to all of this, though, is that money out of the climate commitment funds as well as the capital budget, both those are sitting good right now, believe it or not. So anything in capital and in climate climate commitment, we're good. The only bucket of grant money and loan money that we should be nervous about, we're gonna have to fight Olympia on this, is the Public Works Trust Fund. That is the only funding they have. See, the other ones are actually protected where they can't steal money, but because that is a creature of the state, no other state has that. So they basically created it. So anytime they get in a pickle with money, when cities are paying the money back, because it's supposed to be replenishing and then they loan it back out. Well, when I started in College Place 8 years ago, they pulled the same gimmick back then. It was like, oh, we're going to go swipe 300 million, plug our hole and pretend like nothing's wrong.
Right.
So the good news is that for two of the key projects, which I would have been worried about funding just because they aren't federally classified, so it's an issue, that Birch and Sixth project, fixing up the road, the sidewalk, and doing all stuff underneath that. We're getting an agreement with them now, and we're supposed to get it like next week, and it'll go before you, I'm hoping next council. They'll protect it, so they aren't going to be able to go grab that money back, which is good. But we're going to have to fight that because to recover from that, I mean, Public Works Trust Fund hardly gave out money for like 5 years after they pulled those shenanigans. Yeah. So that's the only bucket of money that we're a little bit in danger on. Everything else is protected, and the ironic thing is if you can make any nexus to like that Climate Commitment Act, the amount of money that is just like idling in that account is like ridiculous because that's paying for the fire station improvements. So if you can build a case around that, they're flush with cash.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have some questions that come. So I hadn't had this question until Councilmember Peterson made me think about it. Not having these funds, what does it mean for the city? Does it mean we will not do projects that that are penciled but not done, or haven't even started, or does it mean it's going to impact projects we are in motion already?
Ones where we have contracts, it isn't gonna affect that because we have a contract, so that money's already been allocated. They can't be stealing money back on stuff that there's already a signed agreement out. And really, with most of the agreements, I would say through in grant programs like through Department of Ecology, which is wastewater and storm, and then Department of Health with water. I think those are going to stay fairly solid. And then same with the Department of Transportation, the Ped and Bike program and Safe Routes to School. They've reallocated the money that goes to pay for those. 80% of that's coming out of Climate Commitment Act, and that thing's flush with cash. I think Public Works Trust Fund, our ability to get future projects for that, if they do start swiping money again, is going to be in peril.
What projects come from that?
Sixth and Birch, that one that we'll be doing, the one we'll be doing for new pavement and sidewalks and water and sewer underneath, because
so road repairs.
Yeah, because that's the thing, we can do piecemeal the water and sewer grants and loans, but to try to do like a holistic full road rebuild with stuff underneath on a local road that's not federally classified, you typically go to the trust fund for that, because these little local roads, the other programs frankly don't really care about it. So it is going to affect future ones like on that. So like for instance, if you went further down the capital facility plan we approved, Cedar Avenue is a good one between A and C Street, because I was trying to put in future years we go to trust fund and deal with that because residents get irked at the condition of that. But that one, it may cause issues trying to get that. So I see that being a near term issue, Public Works Trust Fund. Not this biennium, but probably the following following biennium unless they do something. I see money from Transportation Improvement Board, which like decent portions paying for Majanier, the Rose Street lights, a lot of Damson. I think that's going to be harder to get because, you know, with the fuel efficient vehicles, a lot of that's paid for by the gas tax, and that's like declining significantly. So I know when I looked at their last projection, they're sitting okay for like this biennium. But I think that it could be a whole nother conversation going past that.
Okay, so, and then my next question or comments are about the flyers. So we've had the flyers years past. Every year we update them and put, you know, current information. So there may be changes in the economy, changes in our retail market, changes in our manufacturing. If the president-elect's financial plans go into place. So I want to make sure that as we're doing this, or we're talking to people or businesses, we're thinking about realistics. You know, the mall here at Walla Walla, they've had a number of stores still not opening, right? So what's happening to those stores that they keep saying that they're going to have these stores, Home Goods started, and now all of a sudden there's nothing. So I don't know what's going to happen with those kind of retail markets. So I want us to be carefully aware. Plus, people I think are going to start shopping differently. Some people are shopping more to their personal values with companies. They're not doing online. They're doing more American made and less foreign. You know, just however, the difference is I think people are more aware of how they're spending their money. They're more conscious of where their money's going to and what types of businesses they're supporting. So as we go out and try to promote businesses to College Place, I want us to keep that in mind to ensure that we're bringing businesses to College Place that benefit College Place, that the people of College Place do need, do want, will shop from. The last thing we want is to get stores that just close in a few years because it's really not what the area wants. So as we also look at these data or the messaging type of these flyers, to kind of keep that in mind of the people of College Place and what economic changes, what shopping habits might change in the next few years as people are changing their shopping habits and their spending habits.
The only note I'll mention at the town center is that wasn't that, and I mean, it was good. It was good that they changed owners because we were able to game jersey mics that way. But data doesn't lie on that one. The issue with like the town center has been since they had changed the ownership. It went from Gelman Group to another one, and they tend to price stuff like a metro market. They don't look at tertiary markets. And when I talked with folks associated with the franchisee over here, they were originally going to go over there, and your typical market rate for a triple net on like chain commercial around here can go between $4 to $8 triple net a month. The pricing from Almo Group up there was $36. So 4 to 8 here in College Place versus $36 triple net at the town center. So I mean, that's the problem. If you're going to price stuff like you're on the moon or something, you're going to end up with an empty shopping plaza.
They're clearly not interested. You know, and I think people, some people are wanting to shop less online, like shop less at Amazon. So I think if we can find retails that we can find our needs here locally at an actual store, we could message it that way to these retail markets, that people are looking for more, again, brick and mortar. They're going back to their brick and mortar and less to their online shopping because of various reasons. But it's something I think we could benefit from and really capture when we're messaging it. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, I see eyes are starting to spin, so I'm going to move on and pass it to Ms. Colwell. To inform the council on efforts with the city taking to minimum risk to the city. Okay, let me see.
We're gonna talk about public records.
Public records. I'm trying to understand where this is going. Okay, to public records.
That's right. So under the Public Records Act, thank you, Mayor, under the Public Records Act since 1973, I think, cities have been required to publish, create, maintain, and publish index of public records. And unless it's unduly burdensome for that entity. And in 2000, City Council addressed the issue and passed a resolution saying it would be burdensome, unduly burdensome to maintain this index. And basically what the index requires is certain information about certain records that the city obtains, uses, or creates. So our lovely public records officer brought to my attention that the kind of claim du jour, which we do have with public records, they talk to each other and they're like, we can get them on this, is the fact that departments or sub-agencies of governments also have to say it's unduly burdensome to maintain an index. The statute specifically refers to an index, which makes me think that it is one index for the government, but that's not, always what a court interprets. And so the state does this practice with each agency. So Department of Commerce or Department of Health or whatever it is. And the recommendation is to do that also on the city level. And so that's what's been provided to council as a draft resolution declaring this. And I think that we can, at the time at least, make a record that with our staffing ability and our current revenue, current expenditures, and potential revenue, potential staffing level, we just don't have the capacity to maintain that index of records and maintain it publicly at this time, that it would be unduly burdensome. And so we're going to recommend at next council passing this resolution. So any questions?
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mary Elizabeth.
Yes, it's,
Mayor.
I just whispered into Mary Elizabeth's ear and she took it from there. So thank you for the collaboration here and getting this addressed so that we don't fall victim of people trying to do gotcha games with us. Any questions, council members? All right.
Excellent.
Thank you for getting on this so quickly.
Yes.
Okay, now you're also going to finish, you're going to finish the night off with the Indigent Defense Services.
That is correct. Thank you, Mayor. Our last contract we had with Rebecca Lemons through negotiating decided not to continue with her contract with the city for Indigent Defense Services. And so Mr. Rizziatello reached out to our conflict counsel, which is Brian Ponte, who handles any cases that our regular indigent defense couldn't handle for conflict reasons, and asked for a proposal. That's what you have here. I have done a legal review since this information got before you, and I had some additional questions that I just got the answers to today. So Mike and I are going to talk about that. And I imagine there will be a financial impact. And so if that's information you need, I will need the finance director's assistance on what that will be for council. So if anyone has any questions at this time for the terms of that contract, I've noticed that in the agenda, it says $588 per case, but I didn't calculate that out for 2027, but it would be a little bit more than the year before. They proposed a 1-year term and then a 3-year proposal with guaranteed increases. So it would be a benefit for us to know, a benefit for them to know. We still haven't heard from the Supreme Court as far as indigent caseload standards. So there is a provision in this contract if those change and it affects a 10% in their case level, which it will based on what's been proposed, then we come back to the table and renegotiate. And this really is what the city of Walla Walla is doing, and I believe the county as well, these terms.
Mr. Sotelo?
Yeah, I'll just say Cliff's notes of the situations we've dealt with. We mentioned in earlier meetings, this is based until the state does what Illinois and some other states do, where either they make this a little more normalized or pay for it. It's basically a dumpster fire at the moment. So when I was calling around to see if there were others or so forth, literally everyone is in the same boat as us because of these case caps. So until the state does something, yeah, it's just I'm just glad we were able to get our the one that's stood in when there was conflicts to do something, because this is a major issue.
Yes, absolutely. I was relieved to actually see this as well. It's been something that's been on my mind. I'm sure just like yours. I don't think the state's going to do anything anytime soon. So I think we're just going to have to work through this. I don't see it not happening. I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
The proposals, it says there's a per year and a per case. Are they giving us either or?
It's a guaranteed payment per year, so a guaranteed monthly payment, even if they don't reach the 250 cases.
Okay.
But that's just breaking it down by per case, which a lot of
I got
jurisdictions
you.
look at and kind of understand that number.
So it's pretty much paying for an attorney.
Yeah.
Right? It's paying for an attorney to be assigned to us kind of thing.
It is. I mean, that doesn't take in, I mean, if you think of 400 cases is the caseload cap. So this, I think, would be on par with that if we were paying for 400 cases and we were paying for office space and overhead, which is between 40 and 45% for a law firm or indigent defense firm. It's pretty significant, healthcare and retirement and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's correct. We're basically paying for almost a halftime attorney.
Oh, almost a halftime
I mean,
attorney.
A little bit more than a halftime.
Okay, I was gonna say we couldn't hire our own attorney for the same, but no, not even an
Well, the
entry level.
benefits, like
entry
my
level attorney?
salary, the benefits are quite a bit more if you look at it on the budget worksheet, right?
Yeah,
So-
yeah, got it. Okay, Councilmember Williams.
It occurs to me that lately we've talked a whole lot about public defense attorneys, which is crucially important and kind of weird at the moment because of what's going on with the state stuff. And we've talked about that city of Walla Walla or Walla Walla County is not, they've declined to prosecute some of the stuff that they used to prosecute for us. Do we need to look at more prosecuting attorney services? It seems like they ought to be kind of even. Does that make
So-
sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So the proposed changes to the caseload standard requires that government agencies that have to provide this service provide it pay at an equal rate that they pay a prosecutor with a full caseload, including benefits, support staff, all of that. But they don't really say what a full caseload is for a prosecutor. And I actually reached out to other cities and only a couple responded. So I just don't have that figure, but I think AWC is trying to collect that information. I'm sure there must be a caseload for prosecutors. And I guess I'm just trying to get better at managing my time. I don't get to spend as much time on one particular case as I'd like to. Like, it would be great if I could watch the body camera footage for each case. I just can't. That's just physically not possible to do. So yeah, I think, I don't know, Mayor, Mike, you guys are the leaders. I'm busy. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I had an answer.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to provide a better answer. Right.
I guess another thing.
I just think it's something that we should probably look at as we start looking. I mean, we just adopted a budget, so it's time to start with our next one, right?
Right.
I think it's something that we should be thinking about.
Sorry to talk over you, council member, but another issue is just the number of attorneys in our area. There's just, I mean, I think we could drop 20 more attorneys in Walla Walla County and we'd still need more. But that doesn't mean, you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't have an answer for
attorneys and doctors, we gotta find some that are really stressed out on the west side and try to find a better quality of life over here.
Right, right. I think building housing will help, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm continuing to try to find ways to be more efficient in what I'm doing, so.
Well, and sometimes, okay, I'm an engineer, not an attorney, but sometimes you can also help by providing better support, like maybe paralegals, or, you know, the answer may not be more attorneys if they just don't exist, but there may be other types of support we could look at.
Sure. I mean, there are Rule 9s that are third-year law students that can actually go and practice in district court. You know, there's a Teach the Law program. There's a lot out there. I know OPD is working on getting more defense attorneys churned out, so that might alleviate.
You know, Councilman Williams, I'm glad you're bringing it up, or you're stating this, because we've had, in fact, before the council meeting, we kind of had a brief discussion with, I did, and City Attorney Caldwell. We got to kind of think a little bit differently now, right? In the change of the environment, and we've got to be open and prepared to do things as a city that we've never done before, in order to make sure that we're getting things done properly and that our staff has the support to take care of our citizens. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Yeah, the world is different all the time. I was just talking to my students today about the only thing in managing an organization that is constant is change. And so I think we need to just keep looking at how we're doing things and why we're doing them that way. And do we need to do something different?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
So if any council members has any questions, feel free to reach out to me or the mayor or Mike on these particular contracts. But I think we'll be presenting them at the next council meeting for approval. So yeah. And I will say, Mr. Fonte is a pleasure to work with. He's super invested. He is part of the community court program. He doesn't have to do that. He's there at every meeting. You know, he's does good by the people. So.
If I wasn't so old, I'd be going to law school. Don't do it.
If I was smarter.
Yeah, really. All right. So there's one informational report in your package for your review if you have not yet done so. Also, if you'd like to attend any of the AWC trainings, please let City Clerk Garcia know, and she'll get that process going for you. Sometimes these are really interesting, and things that we think are bright ideas that we thought of for the first time, turns out they've been happening for a long time already. So that's where you learn these things in these trainings. You know, talk about not being so smart. I think that's what they do. All right, we do not have an executive session tonight. So is there any other business for good of the order? Councilmember Jessup?
I was waiting on you to be here, and so I want to make this very quick. I know a lot of our strategic plan when I first came on board was trying to continue to connect with the local high schools as it's our school systems, sorry, I should say really, and being involved and getting the city and so on and so forth. And so just wanted to publicly thank you and for going to our math showcase night at our local high school. I know an engineer who first began on the project Lions Park was also there. And so it was really, really important to see the city be involved with the showcase of our high school students, showcasing their math talents. And I think one of the projects was even city planning, which is pretty neat. So just wanted to say thank you for making what's on paper as a plan into action and being involved.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. I think getting out there and supporting our students and encouraging them, and it's always fun. They're so nervous, but they're so excited to show their projects. And it was, I think, it was a good time spent for me for sure. So thank you. I do appreciate that. Anything else? All right. So do we have a motion to conclude? If not, I
So
can keep
moved.
talking. All right. Okay, Councilmember Boyle, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Cleveland, thank you all for your work. I know it's been late tonight. You have long days, so thank you so very much. So if there's no objection, the meeting is concluded at 8:31 p.m. Thank you, everyone. You have a good night. Good night, Councilmember Sherman and Williams. Everybody. I hope Heather doesn't mind, but I'm gonna steal the Uline catalog.
Hey, you know,
Big
she
summer.
she asks about that from time to time.
If she says anything, it wasn't me.
Whoever. Who still does that?
Oh, okay.
And it's been in my office for, I don't know how long, I'm not sure how long.
Was that?
So I said yes, and I told them that, you know, talk to your team to make sure he wants to tell them or you, but I think that.
That's great. You're not fabulous.
And then I think I should do something, so.
Do you wanna like write
Yeah.
it on it or?
So we're saying they're anti.
As I think about them, I mean, I don't know, the Washington DC text, I have to find those.
But
Yeah, no,
it's
oops, I
like
wrote down.
currency for drugs.
Sorry.
Like, it was quite well. But the guy that's working on trying to get a hot
On our end.
Oh,
He's
I-
like a
I
big
actually- I
proponent,
actually-
he's got the nonprofit going to get some hockey.
Does he work here?
You guys got to the point where you have a
Must be.
grocery outlet?
That's him? Oh, that's him.
Right, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I saw you guys.
Oh, here's your pen. This is your pen. But, yeah, thank you for all of that. I think that's fantastic. And I don't think of it being.
Well, what we're seeing, honestly, I think what we're seeing is a shift in corporations protecting their own assets.
I got an email today saying, you know, it's time for the newsletter and I haven't put anything in the newsletter. in
But
4
what,
months.
I
It's
mean,
like,
what.
I get-
Well, I mean,
Election
at
only
least the
maybe
case
so
the
many months
law,
away.
they
We'll do all the floor and it's dude Jersey lights.
The Home Depot part where like
But
we
the
do
Jersey
need
lights
to
caught
about
up
this one.
close.
Is
When I checked it,
I
I had 33
like
hours.
three then because
It is.
when I bike over there, you can see it like when I
New Jersey.
will just stuff. They'll be like, oh, the cashier will be like, I'll pay for it, and they'll ask you, and then they'll walk right out with stuff. And then my favorite part is then they'll go across the street and steal stuff as well, and then you can watch it, where I typically get the police about, then they'll go down to
My
DCO,
brother
and they'll
says,
try
I
to
was gonna
steal
do that
stuff.
ribbon
from
cutting
people
because he
who
saw
sell DCO,
and then
and then drive back in
the
the
jobs I provide, right?
So we're just, we
But
have
I
our
wanna
first
know
few
more about
cases
the
where we're,
owners, 'cause they may
we have the
not know.
mandatory 30-day
Right?
minimum, so it's gonna
But,
be interesting.
Um,
And the defense attorney has
He
put
went
it
to
off a
Gladstone,
couple times,
but yeah,
they
that
tell
was,
the client, like, you have to go into treatment or you're going to jail.
you know.
So we'll see, and I'm hoping that once that work gets on the street, that's like,
Home
look, you'd rather pay for you to stay in jail than have to pay an officer to be in Home Depot.
Shouldn't be.
For 8
I know
hours.
from a lot of big cities, they're high crime companies.
No, because they rather donate, so you don't have to pay for stuff.
No, well, no, and I'm more concerned about the whole criminal trick or treat.
Yeah, that's well, I mean, when the teenagers
Yeah.
can talk about it. you
Well,
know
and,
that.
and nothing happens in court, it's just really, yeah, it's frustrating. Super frustrating.
Random question.
Yeah.
Not for anything point of curiosity, how much do you pay that, well, the strategic planning and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's 20.
For the project or the year?
It was for the whole project, so the plan, and then he's also gonna be dealing with the claims due implementation, so it covers all of that.
Okay.
It wasn't really wrong, it was. the
Yeah, that's
only
like
one
the
that I was
goal.
looking at, so